Hello everyone, my name is Arvinder Kaur, Assistant Professor in B.Ed College affiliated by Guru Gobind Singh Indepth University. So today our topic is process of counseling. So today in this video we will discuss what is counseling, definition of counseling, process of counseling and stages of process of counseling. In my previous video, I already told you about the counseling, what is counseling, the definition of counseling, meaning, and what is the difference between guidance and counseling. So there is a brief recapitulation. What is counseling? Counseling is basically the interaction between counselor and the client, one-to-one interaction between the counselee and the client. So here are the two definitions by Strang and Carl Rogers. Strang also explained that there must be face-to-face relationship between counselor and counselee, and Carl Rogers explained that there must be permissive relationship between counselor and the counselee. So next we will discuss what is the process of counseling. Counseling is an interactive process characterized by unique relationship between the counselor and the client. As we already discussed, many times we discussed this thing that counselor and counselee relationship is an interactive process. It's a face-to-face interaction between client and the counselee. The process can be discussed in two terms. One is outcome goals and second is process goal. So what is outcome goal? So outcome goals describe in terms of what the client desire to achieve as a result of his or her interaction with the counselor, and process goals are those events the counselor take as helpful and instrumental in bringing about outcome goals. So outcome goals are described in terms of like change in the client that will manifest after the counseling and outside the counselor office. But process goals are plans for events that take place during the counseling section and in the counselor's office. Now we will discuss stages of the counseling process. First stage is initial disclosure. At the beginning of the counseling, the counselor and the client typically do not know one another. So it is important to build up a relationship between counselor and the client so that counselor can be able to solve the problem of the client. He can understand the problem of the client. So it is important to build up the relationship between the counselor and the client. A trustworthy relationship must be built between the client and the counselee. It is very important. In the stage 1, some relationship is built between the client and the counselee. Now we will discuss the characteristics of relationship. First is empathy. Understanding another's experience as your own experience. Here, counselor will take or understand or feel client's experience as its own experience. Next is genuineness. Genuineness basically means authenticity or quality of truly being as you seem to be consistent over time or maybe dependable in the relationship. So genuineness must be there in a relationship. Third is unconditional positive regard. Unconditional positive regard, caring for your client without setting conditions for your caring. Here the counselor will give positive regard, positive attitude toward the problem of the client. Concreteness is basically using clear language to describe the client's life situation. Language communication must be definite, specific. Their relationship, like whatever they discussed, that language must be clear. Now the second stage of counseling process. Second stage is in-depth exploration. In-depth exploration means understanding the problem more deeply, deeper understanding of the client's problem. Now you will assess the problem, begin to formulate a new sense of hope and direction. The process that facilitate formulation of a new sense of direction builds on the condition of the initial disclosure stage. So first stage is very important. On the basis of first stage, you will able to continue the second stage. So the data whatever will be collected in first stage must be accurate. Characteristics of relationship. First is new sense of hope and direction. The process that facilitate formulation of a new sense of direction building on the condition of the initial disclosure state, and becomes possible only if the trust has been built in that first stage and is maintained. So it is very important that whatever the data is collected in first stage must be authentic. Second is coping behavior. The response of the counselor now include coping behavior. The empathetic responses of the counselor now include material from the prior sessions. So next is constructive confrontation. Constructive confrontation provides a client with an external view of his or her behavior based on the counselor's observation. The client is free to accept or reject or modify the counselor's impression. Third and last stage is commitment to action. Commitment to action basically means setting goals. Goal should relate to desired end. Selecting and defining goal. Goal must be appropriate, which in future we will able to solve the problem. In third and final stage of counseling, client resolve how to accomplish any goal that have come over during the previous two stages. So this stage include recognizing possible alternative courses of action or decision the client might choose and evaluating each of them in terms of likelihood of the outcomes. Once an action decision is made, the client usually try some new behavior or habitual. We discussed the three stages of process of counseling. Now we will discuss the outcomes of counseling. First is change in behavior. Change in behavior in the way of counselee acts, copes, make decision or relate how he cope with your problem, how he make decisions, how he act with you. So second is belief, way of thinking about oneself, other and the world, or emotional concern about the perceptions, counselors emotional perceptions about your problem. Third is level of emotional distress, uncomfortable feeling or reaction to environmental stress. Third is attitude, negative attitude or positive attitude toward the self or other, how the counselor or counselee is behaving during the counseling process. Next is coping ability. So coping ability depends on the individual skill in identifying the question to be resolved, the alternative that are available, or the likely result of different sections. Sixth is relief of emotional distress. An additional function of counseling is the relief of emotional distress. Many clients enter counseling because they feel bad or need a place where they can safely vent those feelings and feel sure that they will be accepted and understood. Last is establishment of free and responsible behavior. Freedom is a power to determine one's own actions, to make one's own choice and the decision.